So this question says to find the absolute maximum and absolute minimum values of the function f of x equals x cubed plus 2x squared minus 20x on the interval 0 to 3. The way that we do that, first of all, so our first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the critical values by setting f prime of x equal to 0. Secondly, we're going to plug those critical values in. So I'm going to just say plug in to f of x, if they are in the domain. If they are within the domain, it's very important because we've been given an interval, so only values between 0 and 3 actually matter to us. And 3, we're going to plug in our endpoints. Plug in endpoints. And again, this comes from our domain, so we actually know what our endpoints are. Our endpoints are x equals 0 and x equals 3. Right, so we're going to plug that into f of x. Okay, so let's do the first step. So f prime of x is equal to 3x squared plus 4x minus 20. If I set that equal to 0, 3x squared plus 4x minus 20 equals 0. Let's just use a quadratic formula here. It's the fastest way to get to an answer for simplifying or factoring a trinomial. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where a is the term in front of the x squared, so for us that's a 3. B is the number in front of x, so for this particular question that's 4. And c is the number all by itself without any variable attached, so for us that's negative 20. So I plug all that in, I get x equals negative b, so it becomes negative 4 plus or minus the square root. B squared or 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times a is 3 times c is negative 20. And that's going to all be over 2a. And since a is 3, I'll just put a 3 right there. So let's go this way, in fact, and simplify this. So I'd have x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root. 4 times 3 is 12 times negative 20 is negative 240, but then I had a negative sign there, which makes it a positive 240. So I'd have 16 plus 240 all over 6. That becomes negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 256 all over 6. The square root of 256 is 16, so this becomes negative 4 plus or minus 16 all over 6. And I can break that into negative 4 plus 16 over 6 and negative 4 minus 16 over 6. Negative 4 plus 16 is 12, so 12 over 6 gives me a 2, so there's a x equals 2 that I can use again in my second step to plug into f of x. And the next thing here is this is going to be negative 20 over 6, which reduces to negative 10 over 3, which is negative, so I actually don't care about it. Why don't I care about this answer? Because it's outside of my interval, right? So my interval starts at 0, so a negative value for x doesn't really matter to me. So I have 3 x values to try. I have x equals 0, x equals 3, and then x equals 2 down here. So I'm going to plug all those into f of x. So let's erase all this, which represents my first step. And let's jump into the second step here. Okay, again, I'm looking for maximums and minimums. So for f of x, which is right here, at x equals 0, let me just make sure I write down. I'm also going to do this. So at x equals 0, we'd have this becomes 0, this becomes 0, this becomes 0. So we'd have f of x is equal to 0. So we'll see if that ends up being a minimum or maximum or not. At x equals 2, we have this becomes 8 because 2 to the third power is 8. This also becomes 8 because 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. And then this becomes minus 40, right? Because 20 times 2 is 40. So I'd have 16 minus 40, which is negative 24. So I'd have f of x equals negative 24. Most likely that's going to be my minimum. But we'll keep trying our last option here at x equals 3. So if I plug x equals 3 in, 3 to the third power is 27. 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18, so I have 27 plus 18. And then negative 20 times 9 is negative 1, I'm sorry, negative 20 times 3 is negative 60, so I have minus 60. So 27 plus 18, that is, let me see, 27 plus 18 in my calculator. That is 45. So 45 minus 60 is equal to negative 15. So at x equals 3, f of x is negative 15. So out of these options, what's the highest value we have? This one, x equals 0 is our highest value, which makes this our maximum. And then out of the remaining two options, what's the lowest value we have? This one, x equals 2 at negative 24. So that makes that our minimum. So let's see what answer matches that. So the first one says absolute maximum value is 0. That's true. And then absolute minimum value is negative 15. That's not true. So that's gone. The next one says absolute maximum value is 0. So that is true. And then absolute minimum value is negative 24. So both of those are true, which makes this the correct answer. I like to just make sure I check the rest of them, although I'm pretty certain that that's correct. The next question says, or the next answer says absolute maximum value is negative 12. No, there's no negative 12 in our critical points, right? None of these are negative 12, so that's out. And then negative 27, so that's also not present. We have a 3 and negative 28, so just from a number standpoint, we don't expect those. Negative 15 and negative 24 we do have, but negative 15 is definitely not our maximum, right? Because 0 is bigger than negative 15, so all of these are out. So here's our correct answer. And again, here are our steps to get there.